And if we hit 500, it will, anyone not able to get in will be directed to the YouTube channel.
And the Q&A, well, I'll say it and then you'll correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, we'll start.
I'm putting the link in the group chat and to other participants, so if anyone wants to share it out.
Someone's missing. Valerie.
Yep.
Valerie might be in the participant list. Valerie Rodriguez.
Yep, I've been looking for.
You'll pull her up.
You may want to text her to see if she's signed in with a different name or on someone else's device. I don't see her, but if
she might be under Jeannie Flores, Jene Flores, Flores. That's her mother's account. She's also a district employee, so she might possibly be in under Jeannie Flores.
All right, I'm in.
Okay, and I'll rename you so that you show up as your correct name.
Thank you. Is it under Valerie Rodriguez still?
No, right now it's under Evie Velasquez.
Oh, because I clicked on her link.
Oh, right. Okay, sorry. All right.
Okay.
Hold on one moment. Let me
see. Is the lighting fine?
Valerie, it's a little dark. It's a little dark. I don't know if you can adjust it. Okay.
Yep, give me 1 second.
Paul, can I get started?
Yes.
All right. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Ivelis Velázquez. I'm Evie Velázquez. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction and Assessment, and we are so happy to have this opportunity to speak with you about everything that a parent wants to know about Google Classrooms. Let me start by saying there's several people who made this possible, so I want to go ahead and thank them first. I'd like to thank my colleagues in the Family Community Engagement Division. Miss Gemma Joseph Lumpkin and Mr. Danny Diaz made sure that we disseminated the information so you could get here. I should also say at this time that there's another meeting, a similar meeting that you can tell folks about on August 18th, same time, 6 to 7:30. And then I also want to thank my colleague, Paul White, who is the Assistant Superintendent of Instructional Leadership. He is actually helping us go live today and working technology for us. And then the district's curriculum supervisors, their team that is working tirelessly to support all educators with remote learning. Before I introduce who's on the panel, I should say this. I want to make sure that people know about a couple of the housekeeping. So we have a button for interpretation, And what I want to do is go ahead and let our Spanish speakers, si desean traducir al español, por favor, seleccione el botón que dice Q y A y escriba hola. Esta es la única manera que saben que hay alguien haciendo usar del servicio de traducción. We also have Arabic translation, and I think you can see, Paul, is there another way to let them know if they hit the same button, the translation button, they can also get to Arabic? Is that it?
Right now, yes, Ms. Ahmad is displaying how to receive Arabic on the Russian channel. And let me just briefly show the screen. And they'll see both options for Spanish and for Russian, which would be the Arabic.
Fantastic. Thank you. Okay, so I was thinking the district curriculum supervisors when I realized that I should stop for translation, but I want to say that there's, as you know, the district right now is in the midst of preparing for the opening of schools. There are many new challenges that we are trying to work on. And so I do want to say from the curriculum and supervisors team, they are working tirelessly to help educators relaunch remote learning for New Haven Public Schools. There are many lessons learned. There are many things that happened well in the spring, but there's a lot of things that we heard from parents needed to be different. So I want to tell you that they're working hard to make sure our relaunch is even more successful. So today, I have a few people with me who are going to be addressing Google Classrooms and talking about how parents can support their children and also get some information, some technical tips, though I want to say that this is primarily an information session, meaning that we're going to give you an opportunity to ask questions. You can either put them in the Q&A. Actually, that's the best place to put them in the Q&A. And after we do an initial talk, we're going to go into the Q&A and answer some of those questions aloud live now. And then we'll also take all the questions that are in the Q&A and answer them and put them on our website along with the recording of the session. Okay, so tonight we have—
excuse me, Evie, before you go on, two things. We are at capacity. We do have this available on the YouTube channel. So if you have, to our attendees, if you have friends that are looking to get into the meeting and cannot, they can follow us on the YouTube. That has been put into the chat that you should see. If you click the chat button, you will at least see the YouTube link. You could send it out to any additional family members who are trying to get on. It is also going to be sent out via parent link.
Okay. All right. So this evening we have, my co-host is Tessa Guns-Johnson, who is the district's supervisor for professional development. She's going to be helping me by watching the Q&A. I'm going to be watching raised hands. We won't take any raised hands until after our two guests are done speaking. But definitely think about your questions as they're speaking, so then you can go ahead and join us after they're done. So let me say that our two volunteers who will do the bulk of the talking tonight are Valerie Rodriguez, who is a parent educator at Morrow Sheridan and has two children in New Haven Public Schools. I'm going to let her introduce herself and say a little bit more about that. And then we also have Mr. David Lowe, who's a teacher at Sound School, and he's going to be explaining what it's like from the teacher perspective, and he's also going to be able to demonstrate what a student will see on Google Classrooms. Thank you. So I'm going to invite both of them to go ahead and say a little bit about themselves before we start. Valerie, why don't you start?
Yes, hi, my name is Valerie Rodriguez. I am a family educator at Morrow Sheridan School, and I have two children that actually attend Morrow Sheridan also, who are going to be going into the 3rd grade and also the 4th grade. So I'm very excited to get these answers for not just myself, but all the parents at New Haven Public Schools.
Thank you. And David?
Hi, I'm David Lowe. I've been teaching at the Sound School for over 20 years now. I teach engineering, I teach math, I teach physics, and I'm really heavily involved with lots of the technology that happens both at the Sound School and at the district level. So happy to share what I know and show you what Google Classroom looks like for starters and answer other questions that we have.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, I do want to say just a purpose for this, right? It's an information session to get some questions. I want to also say that Tessa and I are going to be advertising some dates that are for parent training, and we'll do that with the family and community engagement group. And that'll be slightly different. That'll be a little bit more technical, and we're going to plan those for later in August, closer to the start of school. So you'll have the information about how to go online at your fingertips. Okay. So Valerie, you want to start us off?
Yes, that would be perfect. So the first question I have is there a place that all the students and parents would go online to see the assignments and also join the classrooms from home?
Right. So, well, by way of answer to that question, I think maybe I'll demonstrate or just give you a little glimpse of what it will look like for students and parents. If you haven't been on the platform, the district is using the Google Classroom platform for all classes in New Haven. And if I can share my screen, maybe I'll just give people a look at it if they haven't seen it yet. So let's take a look at this. So everybody's been to the Google page, I'm sure. So what happens when you go to a Google page, if you're logged into a district Chromebook or a district device, as most students will be, because we have devices for everyone now. We just have to have the schools distribute them. So generally what students will do is they're going to go to any Google page, google.com will suffice. And if you notice, there's this little 3x3 icon up in the top right, and you can click on it and it gives you a whole list of things that you can see and choose from. Classroom is one of them. So you can go to Classroom that way. You can actually even just type it in if you type classroom.google.com. Either way, whether you click on the Classroom icon or type classroom.google.com, what happens is you get a list of your classes as a student. So this is this student's first time visiting Google Classroom. So this is what it would look like. If a teacher has invited you to a class, you would see those classes come up on your list of classes in Google Classroom. And if you see I'm getting invited to join 2 classes, film studies and freshman seminar. And all the student would have to do in that case would be to join the class. You click on join, and once the system processes, then you are now a member of that Google Classroom class. And this is generally what Google Classroom classes look like for students. So I'm entered as a student right here, and you'll see this is called the stream. It's a list of current assignments and things that are due in this class, but you can also look at the classwork itself, and each one of those pieces of classwork has different pieces of information you can look at. You can look at their due date. You can look at the specifics of what that assignment is. Say here are the instructions, and then if there are things to read or things to do, you could click on it, or you can open the assignment itself. And then once you're starting to do work on an assignment as a student, you would either add your work or create your work. You can create a Google Doc, you can create a Google Sheet, you can add links or files, things that you work on outside of Google. And not everything has to be done on the Google platform, but even if it is, you can add it. And then you mark it as done. As soon as the student does this, then the teacher, it's like handing in a piece of paper, basically. It tells the teacher that this is my work. I've had it completed to my satisfaction, and I'm submitting it. And this is generally what most classes look like. I've just got a few sample assignments in here, but most people, once you get into a year's worth of assignments, you start to see a whole long list beyond this. Students can add comments, and once we get into the other example class, you can see students can post comments. In fact, if I wanted to add a comment, I could say, so I'm confused. Do we have to submit a new doc or use the templates, for example? And then your teacher would get that that question posted on their Google Classroom, and and you can submit that just to your teacher, or you can submit it to the whole class for them to read. So it's like a bulletin board, so everyone gets to see the response if it helps them, and see these private comments would be if you wanted to just send a comment to your teacher. So lots of functionality, lots of ways to see things, submit things, and different types of work that you can be assigned in Google Classroom by your teacher. The other option that I'll just mention is you can either be invited by your teacher, or if you know class code, then you can add yourself to the class. If you notice, there's a little plus button that says create or join a class. So if you have a classroom code, some teachers will just give you a classroom code, and if I click on join class and I type in the class code that I've been given by my teacher and hit enter and click on join, then this is going to be our K-8 example. So this is our K-8 sample class. The major difference that parents and students will notice probably between K-8 and high school is that in the high school situation, probably each class will have its own individual Google Classroom page, right? So film studies class would be one Google Classroom class, and then freshman seminar would be another Google Classroom class. You'd have a class for English, you'd have a Google Classroom for math, and each one of those would be a separate Google Classroom. Now, that's possible in K-8, especially 6th, 7th, and 8th when they're subject specific, but lots of times in especially the elementary grades, what'll happen instead is that in K-8, you'll see one Google Classroom class for all of the work, and then you find your English language arts in one place, your mathematics in another, and your science in a third place, but all in the same Google Classroom, right? So I'm going to, maybe this is Morrow Sheridan 5th grade, right? And then I go to the classwork, and within there, here's where I would submit my English language arts work, here's where I'd submit my mathematics, here's where I would submit my science, but I don't have to go 5 different places to submit 5 different pieces of work. So generally speaking, this is just a little bit more manageable for students, and lots of times, especially K-5, you'll see one Google Classroom for all subjects, and then each teacher, or especially if they're self-contained, right? You have one classroom teacher covering lots of different topics, then the teacher will just assign different work with different topics, and then those
Mr.
topics
Lowe,
will fall.
I'm sorry, can you slow down a little, because we do have people that are doing translation.
Right.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So as far as format goes, generally speaking, those are the 2 types of formats you will see. And again, also generally speaking, because there will be individual differences from school to school or from teacher to teacher. But you can either have all of the subjects on one Google Classroom stream, like this one, a K-8 sample class, and students can make comments, etc. But all of the classwork shows up in one place, like this. And if there are, I guess the calendar shows, these were all due last week. So if I go to the Google Calendar associated with that class, I wouldn't see any work pending, but your Google Calendar is linked up with this sample class. So students get links to their calendar, to their email, to their classroom. It's all tied in together. So they get reminders telling them when work is due for each individual subject. And if the parents want to, they can sign up for email reminders as well. I think we're going to mention that later. And I can talk about what that looks like. But basically, the combination like this, where they're all in the same place, is sort of a one-stop shop. And once you get to high school, you'll generally find that you have one Google Classroom class for each subject, rather than a combination class where everything happens in the same place. So that's a long answer to your question. Google Classroom is the platform we're using. That's a little bit of what it looks like as a student from the student side. And again, we're not talking about training. We're just sort of giving people a visual. There are two ways to join a class. You can click on join, or you can type in a code that your teacher gives you. And then from there, your teacher communicates with you via this Google Classroom class and posts assignments, posts classwork. And this is also how students submit their work electronically.
Thank you, David. I think, you should probably keep that handy because there might be a question where it might be easier to show than to tell.
Absolutely.
Great. And so Valerie, we're back to you.
Yes. So in the spring, not all of the students were able to meet with the teachers in live instructions. Would that be different this fall?
Right. So during the spring, student cameras were not turned on. And starting in June, we got clearance and all of the legal aspects were taken care of, and that's out of the way. All of the summer programs and all of the fall classes will be with student cameras turned on. So all of the summer programs already have gone through and run with the student cameras turned on. It makes for a much different experience, much more interactive, much more personal. It creates a much more active relationship between the student and the teacher. And the summer program that I was involved with, we even did circle. We did, just as if we were in a classroom. We had 17, 18 students in a room. We had 2 facilitators. They ran morning circle, and afternoon we did a daily reflection. And the students really bonded together. They've literally never met. They've still never met. And we found it was run well. It was facilitated well, and with the cameras on, the students able to see each other and talk to their adults and their peers interactively. It really made a difference. And students, by the end of 4 weeks, students were completely bonded, and they were going to miss each other, miss seeing each other every day. So that will make a big difference in the fall, I'm sure.
Awesome. So another question is the time of the day that the students will be expected to actually be online. Would that be the same as the spring, or would it be changing this fall?
Well, can't answer the same way for every school because each school is going to have their own schedule for how and when students get online. But there's definitely going to be an expectation that students will be available during the same hours remotely that they would otherwise be in a school building. So whether or not they're online the entire time, they probably won't be online for every single minute of every single day. But if your school day runs from 9 to 3 o'clock normally, then we would expect that students are available to be online during that time, whenever their school decides it's going to be active participation online. Some of it will be live and some of it will be either self-paced or watching videos or whatever the school or the teachers decide to do. But again, the expectation is that as if you're getting up to go to school, you'll get up to interact live and in person online during the same time frames that you would be expected to be in class in your school building.
Thank you. So when it comes up to grading, in the spring, they were not using the leather grading. Will that be different this fall for the remote or virtual or distance learning that we're doing?
Definitely. So I think we all understand that in the spring, it was a unique situation and nobody had ever seen it before. Nobody had ever experienced it. And I think to alleviate lots of concern and fears, and also just because there was less consistency probably than we would have wanted in all of the experiences that students had online because of various reasons, whether it was connectivity or devices, et cetera. So that the spring's grading decision was a separate one and a unique one. And starting in the fall, school is in session, and school is going to be run as similar. Teachers will be grading as they did or as they usually would in school. So that's something that's going to happen in a normal grading system. Whatever that school uses will be in use online, and that will be the same as if they were in buildings.
Perfect. As a parent, how can I make sure that I'm aware of my students' progress, whether my son or daughter are on pace with all their assignments?
So great feature in Google Classroom is that once the student is enrolled, there is an option to sign up for the Google email summary, the Google Classroom email summary. So parents can choose one of two options. They can choose to get a weekly update, or they can choose to get an email, a daily update emailed to them. So once parents enter their email address, they will get an email summary of all work that is due and assigned in Google Classroom for the coming week. And I believe there's a certain time frame beyond which you don't see assignments. Even if something's assigned 5 months from now, I don't think you see it immediately. But certainly in the coming week or two, you'll see anything that your student has not turned in and still needs to turn in or submit, so that you can be on top of what they're doing and help them proceed through the work that's been assigned by their teacher or teachers. So we do encourage every parent to create an email, maybe just create a separate email just for school use, right? And that you can check just to see how your student's progressing and what assignments are still outstanding that you can help remind them to get to. And that's a great feature. It's an automatic feature. It's sent out overnight automatically, like I said, either daily or weekly, depending on what parents choose.
Perfect. So I know I have this question. I know a lot of parents do too. How would teachers ensure that our students with disabilities and English learners have what they need to learn remotely?
So I actually have been training a number of the student services folks, as well as the EL staff, in using Google Meets for one-on-one interactions. So separate and apart from the interactive classes that the students will be experiencing, not only will the teachers be infusing the supports for ELs and students with disabilities in their instruction, but students who receive dedicated service hours based on an IEP or from EL teachers, they can meet with those teachers one-on-one during using a Google Meet, in addition to with their classroom teachers. And most likely, because if a day is a 6.5 hour day in school, likelihood probably that we're not going to have 6.5 hours of live in-person instruction. So that leaves some time for that extra support, the one-on-one with the special education staff or with the English learner staff, to interact with those individual students on that extra basis.
I just
Thank
want to
you
cut
for
in
that.
here. Thank
Okay.
you. You guys are doing a great job. I just wanted to cut in because we have some people asking about YouTube translation. And so if you're texting friends who are trying to access the information through YouTube, we don't have YouTube translation, so they don't have to look for that feature. However, we're going to be redoing this session again, August 18th. So there'll be another opportunity for people to get on. So we'll give other folks access. And we will record the entire thing in Spanish on the 18th and put that up on our website. Okay, great. Sorry to interrupt.
Thank you.
Thank you. What tips do you have for parents to make sure that they're able to help their child access the Google Suites with ease?
It's actually a really easy answer. The answer is use a district Chromebook. If you're on a district device, the only way you can get into that district device is with your district ID. And once you're in that way, everything works. The trouble that we've experienced in the spring and over the summer, the only students who couldn't get connected were the ones who were trying to do it on their own Chromebooks or their personal computers, or maybe a phone, which they can all be configured. It's not impossible. It can be done. But when you're using a district device, a district Chromebook, which, like I said, the orders are in for extras, and we already have enough on site for everyone. They just have to be distributed. So if you use a district Chromebook, that solves all your problems, and you can immediately get access by logging into a district Chromebook with your district ID.
Perfect. And I have one more question. How can parents learn to use the Google apps to support our students at home?
Right. So, of course, every parent wants to be as involved as they can with their students' education. And to address that, the district is going to be sponsoring Google Apps trainings for parents Again, this is an info session. Next week on the 18th from 6 to 7:30 will also be an info session, but shortly thereafter, we'll be scheduling Google Apps trainings for parents, and we'll also establish a call-in support. Right now, there is actually currently an email support line. I believe it's familyhelp@nhps.net. So we'll have email support, we'll have call-in help during the day, and we'll have Google Apps trainings for parents available starting after the week of the 18th, I'm pretty sure, but I can't tell you exactly when because we don't have that schedule finalized.
Thank you.
Absolutely, you're welcome.
All right, thank you so much. That was really informative. I have a bunch of questions myself, but I'm going to wait because we have some people who have been very patient. They've had their hands up for a while. So I'm going to invite some folks to do a live call. At the same time, I'm going to ask my colleague Tessa to go ahead and look through the Q&A so that after we have the live question, we'll alternate and pick one off of that list. Okay, so I have Lori Negron. I'm going to invite you to talk. Lori, are you there? No, okay. I'm going to go to the next person.
I'm
yes,
sorry.
go ahead.
No, I couldn't hear what you were saying.
That,
Hold on. I'm sorry, Evie, can you?
I'm going to let you do it, Paul, because I think I wasn't bringing her over. So.
Oh, okay. So, no, you brought in our first person, Mr. Brantley. Yep, you did right. Mr. Brantley, you can unmute and speak, ask your question now. Okay. If not, we'll move on to the next person. And if you still want to speak, you can raise your hand again. Miguel Rodriguez, you may speak.
I can't hear them. Shall we go on?
Yep, and so you go
Okay.
to the next person and click allow to talk.
I see Rosalie.
Yep.
Okay. Rosalie, are you there?
Yes. So my question was, how would family receive their devices, and will the teachers reach out to individual families and discuss what the program is going to be?
So I'll answer the second question first, and I'm going to ask Dr. White to help me on this. Yes, each individual school and then each individual teacher is going to reach out to families with specific schedules and to introduce themselves around and with Google Classroom. So you will get communication straight from school and from teacher. And then Dr. White, the second question was about how do they get their devices?
Each school will be organizing the delivery dates for school for pickup. That'll become part of your orientation, and it's going to be done at the school level to start with, and then we'll assist from there to make sure everyone has devices.
Okay, I'm going to go to, thank you. I'm going to go to Mr. Brantley.
I'm all set, thank you.
Sure, welcome. What is your question?
I didn't have one.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, thank you for being with us. Let's see. Then I have Mr. Gayatri. Good evening. Okay, Tessa, let's go to you. Tessa, do you have a question from the Q&A that you want to read out loud?
one of the questions that, hi, good evening, everyone. One of the questions that came from Denise Roman, I'm sorry if I messed up your name. Please inform families, do students need an assigned Gmail account to be added to a classroom? For younger students, do families need a Gmail account and need to be assigned into Google in order to view Google Classroom?
David, will you take this question? Yeah.
So that's a great question, right? So the student accounts are automatically created as soon as you register with the City of New Haven Board of Education. That registration goes into the system, and at midnight, the day after or the night after you register, an account is automatically created for your student if one doesn't exist already. So student accounts are created automatically, and then they're given default passwords that students change immediately so they can have access for good. So students have to do nothing as far as creating accounts goes. And adults, you can enter any email address. If we're talking about the adult email address to get notifications from Google Classroom, that can be a Gmail account, it can be a Hotmail account, it can be any account that can receive public mail, that's fine. It doesn't have to be Google. Google's great because it works nicely, but it's not a requirement. Anything that the parents are comfortable getting email sent to is fine. And that's why I say, you know, it's a great idea to create just an email specific to maybe just your child's schoolwork, and then you don't have to worry about it filling up with other things or interrupting other work.
David, I really want people to understand that, and of course we'll do it again in training, but it's email summary, right? Google Classroom email summary is what they're looking for, that they're signing up for. Great.
Yes, and that's something that if you email your teacher, the teacher can actually add your email address to the classroom. So if it's useful, I mean, I can even show you what that looks like, just because why not? So here I am on my teacher side, and if I go to, sorry, I'm not on the teacher side. Let's go to the teacher side so that you can see that. Let's go to what I would see as a teacher, and that is here. If I go to people, any student who's actually signed up, you see I get a little invite guardians popping up next to that student's name, and then I can just type in the email address. So as long as a parent contacts the teacher and says to the teacher that here's the email address I would like to get my notifications sent to, then the teacher can simply type it into the Google Classroom next to their student's name, and those automatically get sent to the guardian as requested, either weekly or daily.
Okay, I'm going to go to another live question. I have Melissa. Melissa, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
So I guess my question would be, when are we, the parents, able to have a sit-down conversation with you guys at a table? I mean, the Zoom thing is nice, but when are we able to sit down and have a conversation face-to-face?
Are you saying rather than a Zoom meeting or
Yeah,
a
because
Zoom
I guess
training?
my concern is this. My concern is this.
Yes.
If I'm not able to sit down and have a conversation with you guys at a table, why is it then safe for my kids to come into the classroom? Okay. If it's not safe for us adults to have a conversation at the table, why is it okay for my toddlers or my young children who will be turning 7? Why is it okay for them to come into the classroom where they haven't seen their friends since March? And how do you really explain to them that you have to stay in a certain area, you have to stay so many feet away from each other, you have to wear a mask, gym class is no longer, you know, the gym class that they're used to. So those are my concerns. I'm all for, I'm all for my kids going to school. I'm actually, I work full time. My husband and I work full time. So that's the time that we work would be the time around the kids going to school. But on the other side of it, it's not safe in my eyes. It's not safe for my kids to go to school, because compared to like a high schooler who may understand a little more about what's happening, I'm not certain that the younger children understand what's actually happening and the severity of having to stay a certain amount of feet from each other and walk a certain, I don't think that they're really understanding the importance of what's going on. So
So
back to
I think that's a great question. I right now, almost all the things that we're doing are Zoom, but I think you're asking a great question. If and when the school opens, right? If the determination is that we will be in person, at that point, will there be in-person meetings amongst the adults? I think that's a reasonable question. I can't tell you that I have an answer for you right now, but I will definitely take it back because I think it's definitely a reasonable consideration. You're saying if there's low risk for students, then wouldn't there be low risk for parents and teachers to have in-person conversations? So I think that's reasonable. I'm just telling you that right now I don't have a date for you, but I will get that information for you and we will post it as soon as we can. Thank
That's
you.
also, I think it's also important to keep in mind that right now the plan is not to come back to school in person, right? Right now,
So-
the Board of Ed voted to send us back remotely, not in person. That doesn't mean that the waiver's been granted. It doesn't mean it's finalized, but right now the plan, as far as the Board of Education is concerned, is not to come back in person yet.
Right, but a determination still is in the future. It still has not been determined, and I think a communication went out to parents from the superintendent regarding that. All right, we're gonna go to Christine Soto. I'm sorry, go ahead, Tessa. Do you have a question you want to do before we go to Ms. Soto?
I wanted to answer. Well, we can let Ms. Soto go. I'll yield time, but just wanted to. After this, a lot of questions are coming in about pre-K and kindergarten, and rightfully so. So I just want to give a little response to that. So those parents who are typing that, hold tight. We'll let Ms. Christine Soto go, and then I'll come back on and speak on that.
Perfect. Ms. Soto, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, hi, good afternoon. I have a pre-K student, pre-K 4. I also have someone in 6th grade, another child in 6th grade, which I'm not worried about my 6th grader remotely because she did it back in March. What I'm afraid is for my pre-K, my toddler, how would that work remotely when I work full-time, 8-hour shift, and I won't be able to be online with her during the day. I would have to actually put her in daycare during the day and then work with her in the afternoon. Is there a plan for pre-K students or even kindergarten students to work remotely at a different time?
Well, I'll say this. It's true, especially for the younger kids who, if we're when they're remote, right? Regardless what the plan is, they will need assistance from an adult, the real young ones, right? And so we do have a backup plan. We intend as much as possible to get people online for live, a read aloud from a teacher, a phonics poem. All of those sort of rich experiences are going to be great if we can do it. If you can't do it, we will have a backup plan. We will put on, the lessons will be recorded, and we'll work with parents as much as possible to see what we can do to ensure that they have some access to live instruction with teacher.
Okay.
So you wanted to chime in on preschool as well? Thank you for that question, really important one.
Right, and so I've been going through the chat, and that is very concerning for parents, and rightly so. And so just in planning, so tomorrow I'm actually meeting with the early childhood group, and we're going to put out some plans and just really work, because we know that it's really important that we catch our children at that base foundation, and that's the foundation of their elementary stage. And so we are definitely, and I saw a parent on here, and I passed it, like, this didn't sound like this is for me. Please don't feel that way. All of our children, we care about every last one of our children's education, and we're definitely going to do our best to meet the needs of them. So I know I'm not giving you anything concrete as yet, but just know that we are planning for every level, engaging, not just a worksheet here and a worksheet there and do this and do, no, engage in lessons just as if your child were face to face. So I don't know how reassuring that is, but please know in my heart that's the conviction that I'm coming with.
Thank you. Okay, we have L. Robbins. L. Robbins, would you like to ask a question?
Yeah. Hi, yes, good evening. My question is, will there be textbooks giving out at orientation for schools for children to learn side by side with the teacher during remote learning?
Okay, so a list of materials, we're gathering a list of materials that will go out to schools, I mean, rather to homes, in the case that we're completely remote, to augment the lessons online. I can't tell you for certain since I don't know precisely the classes they'll have, but we're also giving recommendations to, the principals and teachers. When you get your orientation, you'll get information exactly about what will be available for them. But yes, we do want to make resources available at home, especially again, if we go completely remote, for them to be able to not just follow along online.
Yes, I only asked because with my child, I had to go buy a printer and copier paper to print stuff out because it was easier for her to learn the math with a piece of paper and a pencil, versus her trying to listen to what the teacher was explaining on her video.
Yeah, and also, in math, for instance, manipulatives, right? And we'll give you some ideas about that so that they can manipulate quantities. Thank you. Okay, Tessa, do you have a question?
I'm going through a thing. I'm just
All right,
trying to,
well,
I'm trying to,
I have plenty of raised hands. So,
go right ahead. Go right
okay,
ahead.
great. Mr. Jeff Kreppel? Mr. Kreppel? Nope. Okay. I'll go to Vicky Gruber.
I'll try again.
Hello? Vicky, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, there are a variety of mute, unmute. Sorry. So I just wanted to follow up with similar questions to Ms. Soto. I'm the parent of a rising kindergartner, and I have just two specific questions to that youngest group. Is that I think we just need the answer that will be available. You need to have a parent available between the school day, 9 and 3, is just really not acceptable with 3 weeks notice when we have 2 working parents and we're trying to figure out how we can make this work, what's flexible, what's not. And because we just can't, we need to figure out how we can monitor what she needs while still working with, again, 3 weeks notice. And so I want to know, we need more clarity on that schedule and what's needed and when. And then I know you mentioned that, will there be some things that would be recorded that could be accessed later? However, again, like if there's an expectation of 6 hours, a full school day of learning remotely, I don't know how that works when someone works generally an 8 to 5 type schedule. A kindergartner goes to bed by 8 o'clock. They're done with their emotional ability to handle the day by 6 o'clock. So I'm very concerned about that. And then also I want to, so kind of speaking into that developmental understanding and that unique perspective needed for pre-K, kindergarten, first, second grade, our youngest students. How has this plan been, altered to do that? I know that there was specific consideration in the what I thought was going to happen, the reopening hybrid plan, where there was said, hey, we know that K through 3 needs more. We know they need more. And then that plan allowed for 4 days for those youth. So how is the remote plan kind of has that same understanding for those youngest learners?
Yeah, so for the youngest learners, the interaction during the school day is really the biggest change. And again, for those parents who can't access that, it is really difficult because we're managing teachers' work hours against parent work hours. And we understand there isn't a better solution than recording those lessons because we can't have teachers available at other times. However, I will say that there's opportunities also to have family gatherings, right? So kids within a classroom, there are ways for us to try to reach out to kids so that they are interactive with with parent support on a dashboard or with
That's
font.
good because you can't read.
Yeah. Well, no, right. With it has to be with parent support. There is no other way to do that outside of the regular school day. So yes, it isn't a perfect answer, but we are struggling to figure out how we manage teacher schedules against parent schedules. And again, the live lessons and the recordings are going to be consistent across the board. So I could say there'll be more of that opportunity.
So can I press you just to say when you think you'll have
Sure.
a better answer or a plan? Because again, we have 3 weeks and we have to plan our work schedules without the creativity of outdoor classrooms and things I kind of had hoped for. We're
Sure.
really
So school hours will be the same as they are during a traditional year, right? So teachers are available during their work hours. And so outside of that, the new thing is that if you're not able to be there at that, if a child is not able to access it, we'll have video recordings. I don't expect that we'll have more answers, that there'll be more, like for instance, what you're asking me is, will there be live schooling off of the regular school day? And no, I don't anticipate that we'll be able to do that.
I'm not asking for that. I'm just asking for an
Okay.
understanding. If you're asking for 6 hours, if you expect like a 6-hour school day, how does that work?
Oh, okay, yeah. So
the
during
child
this-
who's like emotionally done by 6 p.m., like how do we make that work when a parent who works 8 to 5?
Right. So during the day, we're gonna look at screen times, and the children are not going to be required to be on the entire time. We're actually going to pull small group lessons where, let's say there's a 90-minute literacy block. Only about 15 minutes of that will be screen time for one particular child, right? And then teacher will work with different groups of kids, and we're going to make sure that we adhere to screen times that are manageable. So there'll be a lot of time when children can do other things rather than just have live instruction.
So then my last question would be, I promise, is then, so when can we expect the schedule of when we'll have that block or whatever? Because my husband and I need to be working with our employers of when can we say that I need 10 to 12, I need to block off 10 to 12 and I'll work from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. to make up for it. But like, I need 10 to 12 because my child has a literacy block. Like when will we know within that schedule how to take advantage of the live?
So if you can imagine a school's regular schedule, there
and
will
I can't.
be times, understood. So during a regular day, there'll be lessons throughout the day. So maybe in your particular schedule, you'll be able to tell teacher, look, I'm available at this time. Please, can we arrange that those lessons will be in the morning, right? And literacy, of course, will be probably in the morning. So I don't want to give you specific times because I'm telling you that each school will have something slightly different, but it will be throughout the day that they'll be available, we'll have live instruction. And then beyond that, I do care about your individual child and I want you to work with your teacher, right? To say, here are my needs, this is what I need. How can we work the schedule? Okay, we are welcoming that. But it is difficult to give you an answer precisely right now.
I understand. I think what I'm hearing is that I have to hire someone because we won't be able to have someone available from 9 to 3. So that's what I'm hearing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. I have, Tessa, do you have a question or shall I go to someone?
You can go to someone because I think some of them have been answered. I'm just trying to go back through someone who said their answer was, they were asked 3 times and no one answered them. So I'm trying to find their original question. So you can go to someone else, but a lot of it has to do with Chromebooks. When are they receiving Chromebooks? And I think we answered that already.
Okay, so I have Joanne D'Agostino. Oh, I don't know why it's not coming on. Oh, there we go. Joanne, can you hear me? Do you still have a question? All right.
If I could add, as far as distribution of Chromebooks goes, I know that the district technology people have set aside time for many of the technology facilitators at schools to make sure that the Chromebooks are set up and ready to go, and the ones that got returned from last year have been, wiped and set up and configured for the next student to have them. Again, this is from 3 months ago. So presumably the 6 days that students are not in school when teachers are, even in a worst case scenario, I imagine that during the 3 days the teachers return August 26th, 27th, and 28th, if there are some schools where the technology facilitators haven't yet set up the Chromebooks, I imagine much of those 3 days will be spent doing that, although some time has been set aside next week for teachers to get paid to do that as well, in addition to their normal year. So I would say that the likelihood is that during the first, if you haven't gotten a device by September, I would just say by September, you're going to hope to have a device. But also don't forget, instruction's not going to start the first day, right? Because we've been talking about spending some time trying to get to know kids, trying to settle in, trying to get the programs, the technology worked out. So I would say that, even if for some reason a technology kink comes up, we're going to work it out. And for sure, the first week or two, or maybe even 3, might be just making sure that everybody has a device, everybody can connect, and that everybody can use the technology before we get deep into curricular work. So I don't want people to worry about, oh, if I don't have a perfectly working device the first day of school, is that going to be a problem? I would say, yes, that's something we need to concern ourselves with and try to avoid, but it's also not going to be overwhelming issue, because that we are going to spend time making sure that everybody has the setup before we delve into curricular work. Does that make sense?
I do want to reiterate that principals will reach out with specific information for each school. So, yep. Okay. All right. So I have Jason Schneider. Jason Schneider.
Hi there. Hi there. How are you?
Hi there. Hello. Your question?
Well, I actually wrote mine down, so I'm not sure if you're doing the Q&A thing. So I have 4 questions. I'm happy to just let it go to the Q&A, or I can ask here.
How about you just give me your first one, and then we'll get the other ones when we look at the Q&A. What's your first question?
I heard that the district might be monitoring students online time when they're doing schoolwork. So when I looked into that during the spring, I was told we weren't going to do that. So has that been a change? Are we actually going to do that this time?
I'm sorry. So you're asking me if teachers or parents are going to?
There is software out there that I can find out. I can look up how much. I'm a teacher. How much?
Oh, a teacher. Okay.
Yeah, I apologize. I should have said.
That's all right. So I'm gonna say then, Jason, just because I really want to get some parent questions going.
Okay. Very good.
We're gonna address your questions in the chat. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. I want to go to Georgia Goldburn. Georgia, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. Welcome. What's your question?
You. I'm not a parent, I have to disclose this. I am a childcare provider in New Haven that coordinates a network of childcare providers, and we are inundated by calls by parents who are desperately looking for childcare arrangements, just echoing some of the concerns that parents have. And one of the things that we want to ensure, because what happened last year was childcare providers were the one that were primarily responsible for supervising the work when parents lost schooling. And I'm concerned that there isn't much coordination that's occurring to support those children that will be coming to us again in the fall, that is going to need this level of support, not just around some of the work, but also around some of the network issues. For a lot of parents who are working, a lot of those children will be in childcare center settings. And so some of those settings may have some infrastructure obstacles in getting every single child online and even supporting them. So I'm just wondering, what is the plan to coordinate with the childcare network and the child care system in New Haven that is going to be a critical part of the support for many families in actually supervising and ensuring that these children log on and they're actually supported.
Got it. So I think this is an important question because there may be lots of people in your boat. So I want to go ahead and empower you to talk to your parents about letting teacher know that that you will be with that child while they're trying to complete their tasks and trying to engage in school, so that the teacher has that information, and then you know, the parent could share some of the information that are tips to help students with you. I also want you to we have several people who are trying to answer questions for community members, but there's a parent and community engagement division who I'm going to share some questions with so they can post them. We'll put some things up on the website and we'll tag your questions so we can get some of our emails out there. And let principals know that people like you, caregivers, are also interested in getting just general information about how to support students. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. All right, Tessa, another question?
No, not really. I was gonna follow.
Okay.
I'm still trying to find the person who said they asked 3 questions. I haven't seen them, but I wanted to follow up with that childcare provider, because actually I attended a conference with PreK, and they do have some things on their website, and exactly what you said, Evie. It's important that the school has the childcare provider information, that email where stuff would come to you, because just like the parent concerned that they're working 8 to 5 and the child is with a childcare provider, when they come home, it's a little too late to expect a first grader or second grader to be engaging in a full day's work. It's really, really important that we have that information. So I wanted to just add that. But if you go to PreK, is it PreK.com, Evie?
Yes, it is PreK.com.
Yeah, they did have some information on their website as well for that.
Okay, and I've got Lisa Sippold.
Hi, it's Liza.
Liza.
That's okay. I have a 2-part question. I have a high schooler and I have a middle schooler. So in the spring, a lot of my middle school child's assignments that I know she did because I was here watching her do them, when she would post them, they would not go to the teachers. So I would have to screenshot them and email the teachers. We were using our own equipment. Was that the reasoning? And if I get a Chromebook from you guys, it'll work better?
Yes. Simple
Okay.
answer. Absolutely.
Okay. So
Okay.
my second question is, both my children are in arts magnet schools. My daughter's in Betsy Ross and my son's in co-op. In the spring, they were not able to do their emphasis. My daughter danced, my son viola. They didn't have the camera capability. And so will that be different in this distance learning?
Okay. David, do you know if our equipment that goes out to schools will have cameras? I'm not sure if Chromebooks have that.
All Chromebooks have embedded webcams. That's right.
Okay. All right. So
by the way, just a correction, it's PreK.org if you're talking about the Connecticut
yes,
facility.
I'm sorry.
Not PreK.com, PreK.org.
Yes.
Thank you.
PREC.
I thought I was saying something. Thank you.
So I will say this, Ellen Mast is the supervisor for arts, music, and she is, and dance, right? And she works with those teachers, and right now she's working with them to be really creative about how they can engage students with live synchronous lessons, more so than anything that happened in the spring. So each of the schools will have those specials, and a place like you know, Betsy Ross, where it's the emphasis. She's going to have to you know, work with the teachers to really understand how they can do that. I can tell you that right now they're coming up with a plan. They'll be talking to that principal about how to schedule those live synchronous lessons. Of course, it isn't going to be the same. We know that it isn't going to be the same. We're going to try really hard for all of those disciplines in the arts that they also are able to see their students and interact with them as much as possible.
May
All
I
right,
just
thank you
add
very
that
much.
during our summer program, we did have interactive physical education classes or physical fitness classes for all of the groups. And that went very well. And so we had, for example, the adults, the facilitators were demonstrating live on camera, and the students who they could see were also, you know, repeating those actions. So, you know, even if sort of imagine a Zumba class where everybody's doing the stuff online together. That's not to say that it's the same for music. It's not to say that it's the same for dance. It's not to say that it will be, like I said, anywhere near the same as if you were in person. But we did have experiences, a STEM class, they built things together. We had cooking class online over the summer that worked very well. The students all cooked. It was fantastic. So especially with cameras on now, it raises the level a certain degree. It doesn't replace in person, but it does allow lots more things to happen than did in the spring, for sure.
Thank you. And then I have Roa Abdelkadir.
Hello?
Yes, hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How can we help you today? What's your question?
I have two questions actually. I have three kids. One's going to ninth grade and the other one's fourth grade and first grade. Two of them go to John C. Daniels because it teaches Spanish. And and it was easy. And it was easy for God, I can't talk today. Before the coronavirus, it was easy for them learning Spanish because the teacher was teaching. But when the coronavirus came, it was hard for them teaching the kids.
So
it was hard for me to teach my.
So I didn't catch all the question, but I'm gathering that you are interested in how we will do the dual language program across two languages remotely.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. So before the coronavirus came, it was easy for them learning Spanish because the teacher helped them. But when the coronavirus came, it was hard for me because I worked and my husband couldn't speak English and doesn't know how to teach. And so it was hard for me to teach them. And Spanish was very hard.
So live instruction, right, with teachers who instruct in Spanish will be something that'll happen consistently in the dual language program, which I'm sorry, wasn't here to experience how that happened in the spring. But from what I understand is without a lot of use of live instruction, it is difficult to learn a language that is not your native language, right? So we are going to use the same model where we have a full day of instruction. Students who are in the dual language program will get to have live synchronous instruction lessons from teachers in both English and Spanish to get back to having some balance.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. So we're definitely working on that. The dual language program will definitely come live as well. And hopefully we'll have better results. Thank you. So I'm looking at Deborah Schmidt. Deborah Schmidt, are you with us?
Unmute. Hi.
Hi there.
Hi, sorry. So,
it's a little funky, so.
So I have, my son is going to be a senior at co-op, and I have to be honest that his distance learning experience in the spring was, to say less than optimal is an understatement. So I'm very concerned about how the teachers are going to engage. And I'm also concerned, he also has an IEP, and it was very difficult to stay up to date on his assignments just with those emails that we get from Google Classroom. And I just want to know if there is a better way to track those assignments and to see what's going on in that Google Classroom.
Sure. David has talked about an email link, right? So when I learned about this was you can go to Google Classroom and get an email summary, which to me sounded like, right?
I did that. It's not very helpful.
Oh,
it's not helpful.
Wasn't helpful.
No,
Okay.
not at all. I mean, it just says these are
Uh-huh.
the assignments that, you know, they're supposed to do, but it doesn't show you kind of like what's your
Oh.
child done, or, you know,
Okay.
it's just not the same. And, you know, to have teachers when you're reaching out saying, I have serious concerns, especially when you have a
Mhm.
high honors student marking period 3, and then you have a student marking period 4 who's failing classes, and you're reaching out to the teacher saying, I'm concerned, I'm concerned, I'm concerned. And the teacher saying, oh, no, everything's fine. Well, clearly not everything is fine.
Okay. So
So
I'm
how
gonna ask
are
you.
we, I'm sorry, I'm getting very heated because I've
Mhm.
entered 3 questions in the Q&A. Everybody else's questions are getting responses. I got none. But, you know, I have a student with an IEP, which is legally binding, and
Mhm.
it seems like teachers were not concerned at all about their instruction.
Got it. Okay. So let me say this. I've got 99 questions in the Q&A. Everything that is not answered live today, we will take that information, and then we will actually write answers and post them to the website. I'm going to ask also for you to be well, actually, this is coming your way in orientation. When you get your schedule for your classes, I want you to note that teachers are also going to have opportunities where they're doing they have time, additional time for planning and office hours, right, where they can actually have conversations with parents, and you know, students who are older can have more one-on-one or small group with teacher to resolve and understand what's on Google Classrooms. So it's outside of the regular classroom time. We're giving additional time for that interaction, because we do know that in the spring, there were lots of questions of students who have IEPs, who have you know, particular needs that parents also want to ask more questions and have more access to teachers. So we're building in that time to the schedule. So I want you to take note when your principal sends out the communication, note when those times are, and you know, be relentless, be early and say, you know, this is when I want to meet early. I want to have a communication with you through email and possibly through Google Meets, so that we get that straight from the beginning. I will tell you that Tiffany Jackson and her team are putting together a remote learning sort of guide, especially for teachers, and train them on how to do better supports and collaboration with general ed teachers, so that every general ed teacher, just like in a traditional year, knows exactly what's in an IEP for each student, and that it's incorporated into the planning. You have every right to demand that, and the level of collaboration wasn't what we wanted it to be in the spring, but we are again building in extra time so those kinds of things are addressed.
Okay,
Thank
and
you
I
for the
apologize.
question.
I apologize for getting so heated, but I'm
No,
just,
it's fine. I understand.
it's just,
It's
you know what,
important.
I've been emailing people and I've been trying to be involved in my son's education. I work for a school district, and I've gotten a lot of excuses and not a lot of action. So I'm just letting everybody know, and they're not even on this call, that I am not going away and I'm not going to be quiet.
Okay, and
Can I
David, you
also
had another
add a helpful?
suggestion?
Well, yeah, and all of that's true and correct, and you should continue doing all those things, because absolutely, you know, people should be held accountable to their responsibilities. And in addition, if you can get online with Google Classroom with your student, alongside your student, because as you've noticed, that there's no way for parents to log into the classroom itself. All you get is the email summary, and that's it, right? But if the student is logged in as themselves, and you're able to look at the screen together, you can see much more, obviously, as a student than you can as a parent, right? So I would encourage parents, if possible, to get online alongside their student and say, show me, you know, this classroom. And not that you have to be, I understand, especially at certain ages, that's tough to do, right? Kids are, more
Well,
or
it's
less.
also hard when you're working too. So
No, I get that. But the great thing about it being posted online is that it's accessible anytime, right? I'm not talking about during the in-class sessions, but, have them show you, okay, I have these 5 assignments and I've turned these 4 in, that's different than I have these 5 assignments and, I haven't turned in any of them. So, and that's just so you have as much information as possible when you're having conversations with the schools. The best and really only way to get great information out of Google Classroom is logged in as the student. So that's great to do alongside your student if possible.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I am looking at Megan O'Leary.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, I was just wondering, as far as the student accounts go to be able to log in, my daughter is got accepted for pre-K 4 at Davis. I have not received a login account for a student account or anything. When should I receive it by?
I don't have an exact date for you. Again, orientation is starting next week. And so principals are giving communications to, you know, who is your principal? What school are you at? I'm sorry, did you say?
Davis Street.
Davis Street. Okay, so you will receive principal information on all of those pieces. And so look for it there. I'll also answer it in the text. I'll go find out in general if there's some general information I could give out about that, and we'll put it in, you will post it online as well.
Okay,
Unless,
so sorry.
Dr. White, are you on the call still? No. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes, what?
There was a question about getting your Google email, right? Or student account. How will that be communicated? I said through the schools, but do you have another answer more specifically?
No, it will be communicated through the schools as students receive their list of who their teachers are. Their teachers will provide that out. At the high school, it will be done as part of your orientation and registration.
Thank you.
And many, depending on what grade your student already has a Google account. It just probably needs a refresher on getting the password and connection for it.
And every school has one person who can reset passwords at that school. So it's usually the technology facilitator. In many cases, it's the library media specialist. It's not always, but so there should be somebody at the school level. If you contact the principal or the main officer, whoever, if you know the account but can't get in, there's somebody at the school who can reset that password, as well as the help desk.
Okay, and then I just had one more question.
Sure.
This will be my daughter's first year at Davis. She just got accepted through the lottery this year. So even with the remote learning, that will hold her place at Davis. Like I won't have to resubmit her for the lottery again. Do you know the answer to that?
Yeah. Yes. Enrollment is irregardless of remote, whichever plan we go to, the school that she was assigned to, that holds true.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Dr.
So
White,
we have.
sorry,
Yes?
I just wanted Dr. White just to address, there are quite a bit of questions in the chat again in regards to receiving their devices. Some parents are asking, I have a device at home, can my child just use that as to not take away one from someone else who would need it? Pre-K students receiving devices, can you just maybe talk a little bit more about devices, Dr. White, and dissemination and all of that?
Families can use their own device. Ideally, we are moving to being a full one-to-one district so that every student will have a device and there'll be appropriate devices for their grade level. So in our younger grades, there will be tablets. Older grades will be Chromebooks. High schools will be laptops that will be available to all students. We are still working out best use for our youngest grades because obviously there are concerns about screen time, but there will be devices made available and distribution will be at the school level.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have Jennifer Troutman.
Okay.
Jennifer, are you there?
Hi, good evening. How are you?
Hi there. What's your question?
I guess I'm just seeking some clarification regarding pre-K because I have a son that's going to pre-K 4 and then a son that's going to 4th grade. I'm kind of clear on the 4th grade. My confusion stems from a call that I received yesterday from Paul in the Child Readiness Program. And despite the fact of the board meeting saying that it would be 10 weeks remote, Paul indicated that preschool is a separate entity and that plan was to go 5 days in person, and there was not an option for remote, hybrid, nothing like that. So I'm just seeking some clarification.
Okay, where is the preschool that your child is enrolled in?
So my son is currently enrolled at Nathan Hale.
Okay, so it's Nathan Hale readiness program, that preschool, yeah? So,
Yeah.
Okay, so what happens for preschool is that, of course, it is much more difficult to expect a preschooler to be on all day. So through curriculum and through engaging activities, we're working on that piece. Okay, so that's just one piece that we need to work out. However, we do have 3 separate plans, and the communication you got from the superintendent right now is that we are either doing that the board has selected for us to do the remote plan, meaning everyone is remote. No students would be in school. That includes preschoolers, okay? However, the communication also said that what we got information from the Department of Education that in order to do that, districts had to send a request to the Commissioner of Education in order to have that approved. If that should not be approved, we're still thinking that at some point we might go hybrid. So that there would be an opportunity for the preschooler to come in 2 days a week. However, that hasn't been decided yet fully. And we know that's a very difficult place to be this late in the summer, but it just hasn't been resolved. We know we're either going to do the hybrid plan or the remote plan.
Okay, because I was just, like I said, a bit taken back because the question was posed to us, are you going to send him 5 days in person, yes or no? So I can put a response down for Kathy, my supervisor. And it was like, well, it's kind of hard to make an informed decision when, you know, on one hand, I know the 10 weeks remote is like not certain at this time, but to think that I would send my preschool 5 days in person and then try to school my 9-year-old who's a 4th grader at home remote, it just didn't make sense to me.
I understand. Yeah. So at this point, it's a difficult choice. I mean, I think more than anything that the idea was for parents to put down which would be your preference, right? Meanwhile, the district is trying to figure this out with the State Department. Okay. So please tell us what your preference is. That's really what that's about.
Now, in regards to if the preschool happens to go remote, and we pay, you know, we're on a sliding fee scale for preschool, are we still paying if we have our child home with us?
I am going to ask that question. That's a very good question. I don't have an answer for you, but I will definitely get that, and that will definitely be one of the ones we tag and post. Okay. All right. And also you will get information from the readiness program specifically on that, but I will also post an answer to that on the website. Okay.
Now, will they be getting back to us as far as a start date? Because yesterday they asked for us to make a decision, but they said there's no start date as of yet, but to still send a payment in.
So preschool in our public schools, New Haven Public Schools, starts on September 10th. That date, that date has been fixed. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I have Karen R.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I just want to say I'm a parent new to the district as my daughter is attending a magnet school. So we live in a different district, and I'm very thankful for all the communications we received so far on all of this. But my question is, I've been trying to contact the school that she got accepted into about scheduling and elective choices and stuff like that, and I cannot reach anyone. And I was wondering if you have any questions about that. I left messages with the school.
What is your school?
It's Co-op.
Okay, so you're interested in getting information from Co-op. All right. What I'm going to do is so yes, you should be able to reach out to Co-op with at least an email. We're constantly talking to principals, and I have Dr. White on the line too. we'll let people know there that you are interested in getting some communication. All right. I will tell you that starting next week is orientation. So you will be getting a lot more information starting next week. But we'll let folks know that you were online saying you wanted some information from co-op. Okay.
Okay,
All
thank
right.
you.
Kavanaugh, I've put my email address in back to you. Please send me your questions. I'll connect you with the principal.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. It is getting late, and so we're going to wrap up, but I have a few announcements. Again, just to remind everyone that we're having another session on Tuesday, August 18th for parents to ask questions. We will, again, if we go over, we'll go to YouTube. And then also I want to say that next week's session, we're also going to record not only in English, we will record that session in Spanish too. We didn't have the capability to do that today, but next week's session, if you can't go to the session on the 18th from 6 to 7:30, you will be able to find the recording online in Spanish and English. Tessa, I want to ask you, do you have any final remarks? I mean, I know that you are doing a lot of work with preparing for trainings, but if there's anything else you want to tell the parents right now where they can get information.
What I want to say to parents, I mean, as an educator in this district and all of that, we know, and I'm just gonna speak for the school where I was, right? I know how my parents is. I know how connected we are with our parents. And so I want you to understand that that's throughout. As the supervisor of professional learning, we are working really hard, our team, in making sure our teachers are trained. Dave, I have to say, shout him out, working very hard as our tech team. So there may be things you are not seeing, and you don't know me. So for me to say, trust us, we're trying to do this, really and truly, we are working hard to make sure that the experiences that you face when we started this process, when COVID came and we knew nothing about what to do in a sense, we are, I would say, a lot better prepared for moving forward. And I know I'm reading a lot of the chats about our pre-K, and that's a real huge concern for parents. And so please know tomorrow when I'm meeting with the early childhood folks, that's right at the front of my forehead in really trying to figure out how do we really serve parents and meet the needs. And I'm copying down questions so that I can take and really make sure we are answering these questions. So I know when you leave here tonight, you may not feel that everything has been answered, but just know that it has resonated with us and we are working hard to make sure to get you those answers so you can feel a lot more secure and comfortable with our remote learning, that plan that we are putting forward for this fall. So we thank you for being here. Go ahead.
Thanks, Tessa.
So-
I just wanted to ask Valerie. Valerie, you're still on? Are you there? Valerie, kick this off.
Yes, I am still here.
As a parent educator, what final words or advice can you give to parents about how to get information, how to advocate for your child to make sure that they're getting what they need this fall?
Yes, definitely. What I did learn was in the springtime, us parents, the students, the teachers, the principals were all learning this. This was all brand new to us. Now during the summer and also in the fall, we were trained. So now I feel like this school year, if we are doing remote, it'll be a lot more smoother because of the fact that we are trained this time around. We had to, out of nowhere, drop everything we were doing at school and go straight online. It was a very shock, not only to the teachers, but to the students too. So I keep saying it as a parent, as an educator also, is that we have to work together and we have to make sure that we're doing what's best for our children. So I'm excited for the new school year. I miss all the kids and the teachers and the parents, but most importantly is our safety and making sure that our children are good. So email our parents, emailing the teachers, reaching out that way would probably be best because phone calls are not being picked up because there's no one at the schools. So shoot them an email. They'll answer eventually. Thank you for having me also.
Thank you. Before I forget, I'm getting a lot of texts from people to say, okay, I'm going to attempt to say this in Spanish for those of you listening in YouTube. En el martes, agosto 18, vamos a tener otra sesión y queremos que todos oigan eso en español. Pues que ese día vamos a record y poner el video en el website para que todo el mundo lo oiga en español, que sé que muchos hoy no pudieron en YouTube oírlo en español. Muchas gracias. David, last words?
Sure. I just wanted to mention that if you do come back, and you're of course welcome to come back on the 18th, the first half hour will be very similar, so don't worry if you're a little late. If you come tonight, I heard 6 to 6:30. 6 to 6:30 next week will be pretty much the same, so feel free to hop in at 6:25. And I did want to say, you mentioned, Evie, that we're going to post answers to the questions on the website, so it's a big website and there's lots to navigate. Do you know specifically where on the website to find answers to questions that get posted?
Sure. Go under, well, for now, please go under the curriculum area and we'll try to post it there. We'll also post it under the COVID area. And then there's also a banner on the side that shows like recent events. We'll do it in several places, okay? Sure. And we're going to also set up a tab that is strictly for remote learning on the website. So that's coming up really soon as well. Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Great.
And you can always find me. I will make sure I post well my email so that you can see it now. Ivelis Velasquez at nhboe.net. If you want to email me directly, that works as well. Okay, thank you so much. We'll wrap there. Please come back if you like, but more than anything, it would be great if you can get some friends, you know, to come on next time, because it'll be similar questions. I'm sure we'll hit the similar topics. Okay, thank you very much. Have a good night. Bye, everybody.